Hey guys,
Hi, Bernhard.
I think we forgot one thing, right? Which
Yeah,
is which version of the cluster are you currently running, or which update version?
that's a very good question. Honestly, I don't know. We can check it, but I think it's not the last one because we left this step out on
Mm,
purpose. Usually, if you install Azure Stack HCI, you should patch your systems before you install the cluster.
right.
But we didn't do that. Why, Bernhard?
Well, we wanted to show you guys the update process, right? So that's maybe a lame excuse, but no.
No, no,
that
no, no,
that
no.
that
It's
was that
it's a good
was
one.
that was our intention, right? To show you
Yeah.
how to update using the tools because you need to update. If you want to receive Microsoft support for your cluster in case anything goes wrong, you should have an updated system, right?
Yeah.
And Carsten, I know that you're doing a lot of trainings for you people outside. What are your insights built from
Yeah.
your long history of installations and playing with patches?
Yeah, at least in Germany where I do my trainings most of the time, there are some mixed feelings about patching Microsoft systems. There are a lot of people who had maybe a bad experience with one patch, with domain controllers or Exchange or whatever,
Mhm,
and I try to convince them to patch the Azure Stack HCI cluster and storage-based direct cluster and Hyper-V clusters every month. Not every quarter, not every half a year, not every year. In my opinion, you should patch it every month.
mm,
Don't do it in the second week of the month because the updates come out at the second Tuesday in the
mhm,
month. So give it a bit time to that other people can find problems with the patches, and Microsoft has some time to fix it. There are some industries where that's not possible. They have to patch immediately after a security patch is out, and the security patches are also in the cumulative update, so they maybe can't do that. But usually,
mm,
wait a bit, 2 3 weeks, but patch every month.
mm,
That's my advice, and I know there are people. I had some fun stories if we had time, but I
mm,
even heard from someone called me and wanted to have assistant by patching his S2D clusters.
mhm,
And I asked him, when did you last patch? He said 30 months ago. So that's, of course, not what I was amazed that this cluster was still running. But don't do that. Microsoft,
Okay.
there are not only fixes,
Mhm,
security fixes, there are also improvements, and please do that. So how would we do it? There are several ways we could do that, right?
mhm.
We could
Yeah.
do it the old way, old fashioned way, take one node out, not out of the cluster, but pause
That's
the
okay.
workload. So move the workload to another host, then install the Microsoft patches by hand, reboot it, wait for the storage jobs to finish, very important part, move the workload on the node again, and then if everything is fine, go to the next
Mhm,
cluster node. And
right.
that's still okay. You can do
Mhm,
that by hand. That's still a valid way, but there are maybe better options.
mhm,
And Microsoft, I don't know when it exactly was, but there is a cluster aware updating
mhm,
possibility. So we have an update process that is cluster aware, that knows the specialities of a cluster. You can't patch all cluster systems at once and reboot them. That
mhm,
would be bad for your workload, right? So we have some specialties in a cluster compared to a single node. Yeah?
mhm,
So, and there are different ways. We will show you, of course, the latest and greatest, and the latest and greatest is Windows Admin Center. Maybe even better would be Azure updating, but we don't go so far. We could, but we don't. We use Windows Admin Center. And I will also show you, while Windows Admin Center does its magic, we will also show you a classic tool where you can also watch what's happening. Yeah?
mhm. Yep.
So first, we go into our cluster
Mhm,
here. Then we have this nice update.
mhm,
Under operations, we have our update. So there is something in a cluster that is responsible for the update of a cluster. It's a cluster aware updating role. It's a cluster role that
Mhm.
is running in the cluster. And to use that, Windows Admin Center always uses the cluster aware updating role. We first have to install it because it's not installed. So I will just press on this button. It will maybe ask me for some credentials and then it will fail. But this is
Sort of
we show
expected now. Now.
it's expected because we want to show you what you have to do
Mhm.
um, uh, um, we have to give some rights here because the cluster is installing a computer account in the Active Directory. It's not me, the administrator, doing that. The cluster is doing that. And to do that, the cluster needs the rights to create an account. And
Mhm.
usually a cluster, an AD computer account, doesn't have these rights, or computer account. So this will fail. Yeah. And
Mhm.
we can switch over to a domain controller.
So this is for the people that are, not installing or maybe in demo environments where you put everything in the computers org, right? You may
They
not
will not see that,
experience
right? Yeah.
you will not experience that issue. But if you go for a enterprise deployment, you probably see that, right? Because your clusters will be in a group or in an organizational unit, and hence you need the permissions to be set, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you.
So here's
Okay.
our cluster account, and
Yep.
here's our nodes. And this
Hmm.
account has to have the right in this OU,
Where it
yes,
lives, right? Hmm.
where it lives to create
Objects.
sub accounts, sub objects. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
go to the OU. It's called
Yeah.
Hallenberg.
Hmm.
I have a OU Hallenberg and Frankfurt, and I have another one GPU accelerated.
Hmm.
Maybe an extended part of this video series we can talk
Hmm.
about that.
Hmm.
Some spoilers here. So
Hmm.
I go to security,
Yep.
and here's not the cluster accounts. You see here I have some other computer accounts.
Hmm.
You see one of another cluster. It's a storage basis direct cluster with Windows Server 2022. It has rights here,
Hmm.
yeah, but our Azure Stack cluster is not here. So we have
Yep.
to add, and we can just do thougout
Cluster. Hmm.
cluster. It should find it. No, it doesn't, of course,
You
because
need to use the computer object as well,
of
right? For.
course, of course, it's a
Hmm.
typical error I do.
Hmm.
So
And which permissions we need? We need read, okay, but something else like.
yeah, there are of course more specific rights. So there are many
Mm,
rights. I
mm.
usually do because security is too complex for me. I'm too old for security. That's one of my
Ooh,
phrases. So
yeah.
create all child objects and delete all child objects. And I'm sure there is a documentation
Mm,
somewhere in the interwebs where you can exactly see which granular rights you need. Yeah, but you
mhm,
don't need full control.
yeah.
You need the right to create child objects. Special maybe only computer child objects, but
Mhm,
this will work.
mhm.
So now
Okay.
usually this should it hasn't worked. So maybe there is an error here.
Mhm. Yep.
Couldn't configure cluster aware update, failed to configure, and that's
I'm
timed
out.
out. Timeout
Okay.
is that it's not very specific, so this is why
Yeah.
we tell
Yeah.
you that. So if I do it now, it
Mhm,
should work. Yeah. And we will see in the Active Directory, there will be a computer account with
mhm,
a self-generated name.
mhm,
If you don't want that, there is a way to pre-deploy it.
mhm,
And you can do that if we are in the cluster. You have the old clusterware update interface. It's like this
mhm,
one.
mhm,
And here, if we contact our cluster, it's just happened automatically.
mhm.
Here we can configure the cluster self update options. And
Right.
there you have a possibility that your AD team, if you are an enterprise, you have maybe an AD team and the virtualization guys don't have rights to do this stuff in the Active Directory. So you ask them for a pre-deployed computer account. And then here, if you deploy it with this tool, you can specify which account is
Hmm.
to use for the clusterware updating. Yeah.
Okay. All good.
Um, we will go back to, no, here we were here. We were
Hmm.
in VAC, right? So you
Hmm.
see here, it went well. So it
Hmm.
should have successfully configured, and there was another problem with cluster resources, so we will just ignore that. Otherwise we have to redo the video again, but we just ignore it for now. So
Hmm.
you see here,
Yep.
it it read the information from the cluster what has to be installed. But
Hmm.
before we do that, we go to the domain controller. I refresh the picture, and you see here we have a
Hmm.
brand new computer account. It's called cow,
Hmm.
TO
Cluster
car.
aware updating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the first letters of our cluster name. Yeah,
Hmm.
and then there is a number character thing that it added. So if you don't
Hmm.
like that, you can do a pre-deploy and use the other tool to specify
Okay.
which account. So this was successfully created, and the clusterware updating is running under this account. We don't know the
Hmm.
password; it's self-generated,
Hmm.
and so on. So let's go back here.
Hmm.
Yeah. Now we see which version we have, which
Hmm.
OS build. I think in the US build is also the version of what we have installed. I think it's the March version, but I'm not sure.
Hmm.
And it checked every node what is to install. So we go now to install. It checked already for updates. So we go
Hmm.
to install. And then comes the hardware part. So if your vendor has an addition to Windows Admin Center, at least now in 23, and Thomas Krenn has, and other vendors like Dell, Lenovo, Data On also have an addition to Windows Admin Center where you can do
Hmm.
firmware updates, driver updates for your hosts.
Hmm.
Um, Now would be the part where we start this additional Windows Admin Center plugin. It will check the hosts if there is the latest BIOS installed and so on.
Hmm.
Um, but we will skip that, yeah,
Hmm.
because um, experience tells that this not always works, especially not here. And this is a hard part. And Microsoft is reworking this additional part. There's something in coming in the next version where all these plugins will be done new or whatever. So I skip it here.
Hmm.
We only want to install the Microsoft updates, but if your systems have the possibility, you also have to update regularly your BIOS, your
Hmm.
firmware, your drivers, your firmware of the network cards, and so on. Yeah.
Hmm.
So we skip that, and now we go to install, and I open this one because we will also have some feedback here. So you see
Hmm.
here now, you see here it starts, it's waiting to start. What will it do? It will download all the patches at
Hmm.
once, so
Hmm.
mainly in parallel, because clusterware updating can also be used, for example, for a 64 node Hyper-V cluster. And imagine this will take days to patch 64 systems. So if you would start with the first one, and it would download the patches when the node is up for patching, the time goes by. So we maybe have different patches.
Hmm.
Yeah. Or imagine the internet is not working when node 16 is due to patching.
Hmm.
So it will fail. Yeah. So what Windows Admin Center downloads the patches first, and
Hmm.
then it starts to patch the host. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's now installing on the fourth node, as you see that
Hmm.
here.
Hmm.
And in the background, it will now install the patches.
Hmm.
If we look in the cluster, everything is still fine.
Hmm.
So which was it? The fourth one, I
Yeah.
guess. Oh,
Number 4.
so it's still here. We have
Hmm.
our roles here. There are workloads running. We have running workloads in the moment. So we
Hmm.
have a VM fleet running with 35 VMs. They are doing a mild workload. So we have, let's say, let's have a look. We have 16,000 IOPS, 8K IOPS on every host. So our VMs are not idle, they
Hmm.
doing work. Yeah. And
Hmm.
we will talk about VM fleet in a later video. Um, or in a separate video. So we have running workloads.
Mm-hmm.
What is the fun of patching a cluster without VMs that are doing some work? So we can't see anything. So when it has installed the cumulative update, it will pause the node, and by pausing, moving all VMs to the other cluster nodes. So it will do live migrations of the VMs to the other nodes.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if we have ownership of disk, we have one here. If we would own the pool, if we would be the host server is for here. So that's the management node where we manage our cluster over. It will move all the nodes to other hosts, and then it will reboot the node. It will wait until it comes up. It will check it if everything is fine, waiting for the storage jobs. It will move the workload on it again, so get the workload back, and then it will go to the next cluster. Yeah? So it will do it one by one and very carefully patch your cluster. So this will take, let's say, between 2 and 4 hours. And this video will not be 2 to 4 hours. We will we will see how the first node is doing, and then we
Got it.
will we will at the end of the video do a time shift and see
Mm-hmm.
uh, how our cluster is doing. Yeah. So here installing, it's a little bit boring because we don't have any information here. VMs are still running, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to the roles or go to the,
I
yeah,
pasted a link in the chat or in the private chat, so you could open that one in order to let's or have a look at the updates that are available at this point in time for HCI.
yeah. So let me open this browser again and paste the link in here. Yeah, and Azure Stack HCI release information, and down here we have the different releases. And
Mm.
for the last one, we have the version here, and it was this one, right? 1607. So
Yeah,
that's the as I guessed, it's a March update.
mhm,
The ISO we downloaded had the March bits included, right? And that's
mm,
also something new. Microsoft started doing that not a while ago, not long ago.
mm,
Normally, you would have the only one release from the first one from the 22H2, and then you would do the updates. But now
mm,
they how you call that, they include the latest patches sometimes in the ISO, so that
mm.
you don't have uh don't
And
have an
these,
too old one. Yeah.
yeah, and
Oh,
these,
here you see, we
yeah,
will talk about the maintenance mode also, because this
hmm
part I really don't like. Yeah. So let's see what is he doing. Let's go. Oh, the node is already gone. So if I do here a get physical disk, by the way, that's good. Yeah, you see my 24 disks. Some of
hmm
them are in maintenance mode, 6. These
hmm
6 are the disks of the node, and they
hmm
should also be not only in maintenance mode, they should also be lost communication, but we don't see
mm,
that in the moment. So the cluster, the node is still kind of there. Yeah,
right,
you see here our roles are already moved.
yeah,
So we don't have anything of the no from the VMs that were running there. They are running all over the place on the other nodes. And I think our node is now down. So let's look here again.
hmm
Yeah, you see lost communication.
hmm
When the node comes up again, it will also patch a bit when it starts, so that we only can see in the BMC, so the remote
hmm
connection
yeah,
to the BMC, but we don't have it open. And when it comes again, the lost communication goes away. They are still in maintenance mode, and then it will pull them out of the maintenance mode and then move the workloads on it. So
mm,
if it unpause a node, the maintenance mode will also be stopped. What does the maintenance mode mean? If you set the disks in maintenance mode, from now on, no I/O is in going into uh,
mm,
the devices anymore. And this is important if you do a firmware update of your NVMEs or SSDs or HDDs. You shouldn't use them, but they have to be powered on and they have to be, you have to reach them over the SAS controller or
Mm.
the NVMe, the PCI bus. So they have to be running to do the update. So usually if they're running, they're used. For that, maintenance mode is good. But
Mhm.
now Microsoft with Azure Stack HCI, always when you pause a node, the disks go into maintenance mode. And I have seen customer installations where they pause a node, they were not patching, and the node was paused for 3 months.
Mm. Oh
So
my God.
imagine now no update on the disk for 3 months.
Mm.
Every extent is dirty and has to rebuild. So
Mm.
sometimes people forget the maintenance mode. Or imagine our clusterware update has a problem and will not take the node out of the maintenance mode,
Mm.
and you don't know that it's there. So I don't like that. I already told some Microsoft people about it, but that's the way Microsoft is doing now patches. So I show it to you because it's important that you
Mhm.
know it. So the node is back, yeah. It's
Mhm.
but they are still in maintenance mode. When I connect to the node, we will try that. I don't know if we can already RDP into it. Yeah, there it is.
Mhm.
Okay, the node is already there again. It's still paused, so no
Mhm.
rolls on it. And cluster we are updating will unpause it. It's still
Mhm.
the patch engine still thinks it takes its time on purpose. So it takes the time, it waits. So now it will show you something else. We have now still our maintenance mode, yes, and we have now storage jobs.
Mhm.
Get storage job, and you see here all of our 6 volumes, virtual disks, has have to be repaired because there were all the disks of one fault domain were not available. There were lost communication. They were in maintenance mode. So if the VMs, and the VMs are running, they are doing I/O, and if they write something to the disks to the storage system, there is sometimes also an extent on a device that can't be reached, is in
Mhm.
maintenance mode or is not available because the node is restarting. So um, there will be data that has to be repaired afterwards. And fortunately, Azure Stack HCI has a sub-extent repair mode, so it's much faster than in Storage Bases Direct, at least Storage Bases Direct 2016 or 2019. Storage Bases Direct with Windows Server 2022 has also the sub-extent repair, so it's equally fast. Yeah. So here now the storage repair jobs are running. You see that here. Yeah.
Mhm.
So they will repair, and here we have roughly half a terabyte is to repair on this volume. Here it's 380 gigabytes. They are fast. We have workload running, so our 140 VMs are doing I/O, so still happening. The repairs jobs are faster than the workload, and if our repair jobs would would impact our VM workloads too much, you remember maybe we could change the repair, how fast the repairs are. We
Mhm.
can do them faster or slower in the moment they are at medium. Yeah, so we have options there. So the disks are there again. You see our
Mhm.
repair jobs are still working. And if these are finished,
Mhm.
then cow, he said success. He will now install the patches on the next one, but it will only put the host in maintenance mode if the repair jobs are done or if all
Mhm.
virtual disks are healthy again. So if we
Mhm.
go back here and we look, we still have storage jobs. It's not storage Joe. Uh, but if we look at our virtual disks that are our volumes, some are okay again because they are repaired, but some are still in service. So there is data not complete there. And if we look at Windows Admin Center, let's just look at Windows Admin Center
Mhm.
to the volumes. we should have some information on some volumes here needs repair, but still green. Yeah,
Yeah.
important, because this is completely normal. If you reboot a system, it can't write to the extent in this system, so that there has to be repair jobs. The volumes are not complete. There are two or three copies, yes, so completely fine, but one copy is missing in something. So here we see there is something to be done, and in the past this was yellow or red, and people freaked out. Yeah, our volumes are defect, my data is nearly gone, and now it's
Mm,
green, but it's stated it needs repair, and there are repair processes running. And maybe
mm,
we also see, here we see, don't worry, somewhere in here everything is fine, this is normal, don't panic, and so on.
mm.
Okay, so let's go back to our update in Windows Admin Center. It should recognize it. We see one node is already finished. So it took
Mhm,
maybe, how long are we filming now? 29 minutes. So it took maybe 20 minutes. So
mhm,
if we if we think how much it would take, maybe 4 times 20 minutes, we will not wait 80 minutes until it is finished. But you see here, he's checking for updates on this host, but still, you see here, it's still doing something. Yeah.
okay.
So
The plan would be to would for the video. I mean, we leave it here, I think, and
come back when it's done.
come back when it's done. Yes. So
Bernard, um, the cluster is done and much faster than we anticipated. So
mhm,
we see here the OS build. I did a reload of this
of this
view,
page. Okay.
yeah,
Mm,
this page. So we see here it's still the old one, but when I do a reload, it should also state 17.026. I guess I forgot. It's late in Germany already. It's after
okay.
5 on Friday.
Yeah, no worries. So okay. Yeah, let's wait for that. So that's a cool thing.
Yeah,
Um,
and it worked. We had in the during the process there was a glitch with the old interface,
mhm,
so we
yep.
lost somehow the communication. I I I haven't seen that, to be
Mhm,
honest, but of course, if you show something more
mhm,
when more tend to go wrong than, than if you don't show it other people. So
yeah.
just wait here, and we can look at our cluster. We
Mhm,
have still all VMs running, and they are running there where they were before. So it
mhm,
moved the VMs back to the original hosts. We have still
mhm.
our 160 VMs running,
Good.
maybe. So you see here,
Mhm,
they are all gone because they were rebooted. So if I
mhm,
go to the first one, we will see just a login to sconfig, no
mhm,
additional PowerShell where we have a watch cluster running and so on.
mhm.
So, but just to do it, watch fleet was it? Watch fleet cluster,
Cluster.
just to
Mhm,
show that the VMs are still working. They
mhm.
were not stopped. Yeah, you
Yep.
see, we have
There
still
they are.
IO here. Yeah,
Yep.
still doing the 16,000 IO. So going back here,
Mhm,
last, so it's now done. Yeah,
mhm.
we
And
have
it's
checked for
good.
hardware, and
But you maybe have it in the history, right? So if you click on the uh, on the history in that view,
you
you would see the last one, right? Okay.
yes, you would see it here. He says it's up to date with
Mm,
quality updates, everything is
right.
fine. Here we see the history, what he has done. Yeah, it's
Okay.
overall
Cool.
it's a nice interface. Everything succeeded, and
Mhm.
our cluster is now on the latest bits. So Bernard, let's conclude this video.
Yep. See you.